goodness. Big move Monday. Look out. A way to end the tournament.
So what's happening, people? Welcome back to the Quad Pod, sponsored by Poseidon Strength. We appreciate you guys using our discount codes, as well as liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel, as well as all the comments. Last week we had some Hodge talk, and it got people a little bit in their feels. Maybe had a lot of comments about Hodge talk. We'll get into that a little bit more. Appreciate you guys being with us. We got Robbie, Austin, and Kevin, and we're on episode 49, the Tim Wakefield episode. Because as Robbie said before we came on, everybody tried to throw knuckleballs, but it was usually pretty ugly. And that's just how we felt about the refereeing of 184 at Iowa, Oklahoma State. He was trying, but it was ugly. So let's get into it. As always, we weigh in first. And for my weigh in, I'm going to give a shout out to Oklahoma State. And that is because they have leaned so hard into creating a great atmosphere. Not to say that they didn't have one in the past, because I've been there. I was there for Nick Piccinini pinning Spencer. I was there when the Flow website crashed and nobody saw it but anybody in the building. Great atmospheres for those as well. But if you watched on ESPN, you saw, and you've been seeing throughout the year, that they have leaned very heavily into just creating a great atmosphere, from having Cormier lead them out this weekend, the quarterback leading them out before, and just like a number of different athletes coming and leading them out of the tunnel. And then even, what was it, the Robidoux match, he comes out to, he has, what is it?
Michael Myers.
Michael Myers came out before him, and then there's confetti, there's everything, right? And it's an absolute spectacle, but in a good way. And it looks like the fans are engaged, and everything that they're doing is exactly the way that you would want a wrestling dual meet of that magnitude between Oklahoma State and Iowa to go. But they've done that repeatedly throughout the year, of having this great marketing and just a great atmosphere. So shout out to Oklahoma State, but also to any other team. I know we talk about Jersey Mike's being packed. Obviously Penn State packs no matter what stadium or venue they're going into. But you know, NC State does a very good job as well. We saw what it looked like with Virginia Tech and Oklahoma State too. So I am giving a shout out and a hat tip to the Cowboys for what they put on ESPN and that product this past weekend. But like, dual meet season is over, and every team that packed their arenas set a good, very high bar for what it looks like to market and truly put on a show. They deserve every single shout out that we can give them. Austin, on to you.
Got a few quick ones here. First, keeping it in the family, my cousin Matthew was 5th place at District 11 this weekend, moving on to regionals. Came in as a 9 seed, knocked off a few upsets to advance to regionals.
Wrestle that seed.
And my K kids got 3rd place at District 11, which is pretty cool. So see a bunch of them moving on to next week. Second one is just Army-Navy match in general. That went down Friday night. Army squeaked by, and they won by a point. Go back and watch that duel. It's on Navy's YouTube. So you don't have to pay anything for it. Really cool product. Navy leads that all-time rival 52-13-5, but Army won the last 3 in a row. You know, so very lopsided overall, but Army got the best one 3 times in a row now. Third and last final shout out goes to Binghamton's Mikey Squires. Had a nice, really, really big upset over Stephen Little of Little Rock. Number 3 in the nation, All-American last year. Squires is a grad student, did 4 years at Princeton. Kind of under the radar this year with just the schedule he wrestled. Didn't really wrestle anyone ranked. He has 2 losses on the year to pretty highly ranked guys. So definitely putting his name hopefully in Intermat Flow rankings, which will get him into the coaches rankings and hopefully earn another allocation for the EIWA, which allocations are coming out later this week. So that's big win this late in the season. So good job, Mikey.
Is he related to all the Squires kids that were about your age that came out of Central PA?
No, No, I think
Else was
Mikey's
there?
from Binghamton area. So unless they're cousins, I don't think so.
Gotcha.
I knew I
Anyone
remembered
else,
that
Robbie?
name, and I couldn't figure out where from.
There was
And
another
I'm
one
like,
too. It was Ian
Princeton.
and was it?
Weren't they
I thought it was
Ohio
another
guys?
Mike.
Am I thinking about?
It
Is
might
that
have been
right?
Ohio guys.
I think they're Ohio.
Oh,
Yeah.
those states blend together. They're all the same. It's fine.
Except for the wrestling, because Pennsylvania is better. But that's another discussion.
Nah, there's nothing to discuss. Robbie, on to you.
I didn't even think about a shout out this week, but I guess easiest way for me to do it is shout out to Virginia Tech for bringing home the ACC dual championship this weekend. It's been really contentious the last few years. Last year was split between NC State, UNC, and Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech won it on the individually this year. They kind of hit on it a little bit in socials this weekend that, you know, a lot of people said it was going to be a punt year for them. And, you know, we did kind of expect it to be a more of a down season when we found out that Henson was redshirting, and we got transfers coming in and a lot of unproven true freshmen coming into the lineup. And they have, you know, they wrestled their asses off and had a fantastic regular season and won the dual title outright and are going into the individual ACC tournament with, it's going to be a battle. That's going to be a really fun tournament this year, but they get at least 2 1 seeds. I think they'll have Seidel and Ventress will be 1 seeds. So congrats to them.
Nice. Claunch.
I got 2 things to shout out. One, I wanted to shout out North Dakota State. They were wrestling South Dakota State this weekend. Nice little rivalry there, and they beat them up. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, well, let me check I don't know, maybe South Dakota State didn't wrestle all their guys. No, they did. And North Dakota State just took it to them. So Devin Wasley at 197, upsetting Bennett Berge. 125, Witt beat Brady Rourke. And then let me see, Gavin Drexler over Cale Swenson are some of the bigger upsets in that one. So, and then Shiloh Jones over Luke Rasmussen as well, who Rasmussen was the hero in their match against Minnesota when South Dakota State had won that duel too. So some pretty big upsets along the way for the Bison, but I thought that was worth shouting out. So Coach Obi Blanc, Willie Miklas, Scott Mattingly of Central Michigan University by way of Gardner Webb, and Colin Purinton on the staff. So wanted to shout those guys out. And speaking of winning, I wanted to make it very clear to everyone listening around the globe that the United States of America is the best hockey team on the planet for men's and women's. Those are the genders assigned options to have teams there. And so as a result, like, we're the best at both of them. So
USA.
yeah, just want to make sure everyone's aware of that.
Is that why you're wearing the American shirt today?
Yeah, I was wearing this Saturday or Sunday morning, this exact outfit. I'm wearing Detroit Pistons pants as well. And also I'm wearing...
Are they Zubaz?
I'm wearing these
amazing.
wrestling shoes.
Hasn't changed all weekend.
No need. No need.
Mm-hmm.
No,
I wanted to hit on...
If they were
Real
Zubaz, it
quick.
would have been legit.
Those would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Ultimate pajama pants. Real quick, what you were saying about Oklahoma State and their presentation, there was a really funny tweet. I think it was the Goat follower put it out. And he said they've kind of embraced like the WWE method with like building characters and having a really big showing, like making it a show at the matches. And I thought that was a really good way to describe it. And you kind of hit on the Robidoo coming out and the Michael Myers and, you know, the fucking flamethrower that Pistol Pete had this weekend.
Yeah,
so just, it was a really cool approach that way. And I mean, we've all seen them embrace social media and how much they've done with like the Stilly Boys stuff this year. They've done a fantastic job building their brand, because I mean, John Smith had a brand of Oklahoma State wrestling, and David has really made his own, and he's done it really quickly. So kudos to them on that one.
The other thing that I didn't mention when it came to the atmosphere, and so I got this text from Jamil during the duel. He was texting Cormier, obviously, who was there, and they were playing clips on the big screen of Tom and Terry losing matches to Oklahoma State wrestlers. So like they
Which is
played like,
hilarious.
yeah, they played like Kendall, at the Olympic trials. Like they played, I think they played that like more than once. Like they were like full on like trolling. So they were just playing Oklahoma State versus Iowa clips of when Iowa loses to Oklahoma State. They said like the whole time, like in between periods and in
That's
between matches. And
incredibly
so,
well done.
yeah, I can only imagine what the intermission looked like. That probably was insane. They probably just kept playing stuff over and over and over again. So
Chinini
Just a
started
repeat of pitching any.
Yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm sure that happened. But
Just
yeah,
a hawk flying into a big glass building.
So they did not spare on any of the details. That is for damn sure. So I love the rivalry. I think it's awesome. I think that anytime you lean in and you go that hard, I think it's awesome. I'm hopeful that, and I know we talked about it in our text group. I'm hopeful that we get an Oklahoma State versus Penn State dual meet sometime soon, because we deserve it and I think we need it, and we should not just be seeing those guys wrestle each other when they get to NCAAs. So, but let's continue the Oklahoma State Iowa conversation. And I think obviously the headliner is that the red shirt is completely burned for Jax Forrest. We talked about it last week, and each one of us said, Jimmy, that we thought that he was going to be wrestling. We were all correct in that regard, and of thinking that he was going to come out of the tunnel and that he was going to be wrestling in the postseason. Obviously, it's going to be kind of an uphill battle for him with like RPI and everything else. And, he'll have to continue his undefeated streak, obviously, steal bids or whatever else. But I'm honestly glad that he came out of the tunnel. And like I said, if I'm Drake Ayala, I'm not happy that he came out of the tunnel. And that's exactly probably the same feeling right now. So what did you guys make? 125. Yeah. That match was what it was. It would have been nice to see Spratley continue his offense and not just for one takedown. But when you're followed up by Jax Forrest and then Vega, like, just incredible. So let's start with 133. Claunch, your thoughts on Jax Forrest coming out of that tunnel and then just absolutely waxing Ayala.
Dude, it was like Pistol Pete lit him on fire with the flamethrower. Like he was just nonstop action, aggressiveness the whole time. Just stringing moves together one after another. Shit, we've watched him battle all year and be really impressive. This is the most impressive he's been to me by far. Like he took Ayala to pieces, and Ayala is the last person I would have expected to be able to get beaten that badly. Just with what we've seen of him over the years, his experience, he's been in big matches and big stages many, many times. It's crazy if you're Jax Forrest, if you're coaching him, are you like, dude, like chill, like you're going to scare people. They're going to watch more tape. Like they're not the surprise kid on the street anymore, I don't know, man. It was super impressive by him, and obviously burning the red shirt is the right move at this point. If he's going to do that against Ayala, let's see what a fired up Jax Forrest is going to do throughout the rest of the season, man. 133 in general is so stupid loaded with youth and excitement. I can't wait.
Yeah,
and then
the short game.
Yeah, exactly. There we go.
Yep.
Not much youth, but very much excitement.
Yeah. Austin, your thoughts on Jax Forrest?
We touched on Ayala not having the best year compared to years past, but
he was under 500 at one point.
Yeah, he's a two-time NCAA runner-up, and going through his wrestle stat, all his losses in his career have been decision, except he got pinned by Lee at the Soldier Salute, and he got pinned by Bird last year. I think that was at Big Tens. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he's never been beaten that bad. And 2 months ago, Jax was wrestling at Powerade. So it's just like Jax is just a freak, man. And like we talk, I just love watching him wrestle. He puts guys in different positions and he wins every position he puts these guys in. He's a true a wrestler. He's not going to go out there and stand and go 0-0 in a period. That's not his style. You know, he's fun to watch. He's exciting, just part of this youth movement. And, you know, I think he's great for Oklahoma State and part of this rise. And he's probably going to be the face of the program. Him and Dee Lockett moving forward. It's great for the sport.
I just wish he had dropped to a knee more.
That's what we need. Yeah, he needs more of that.
Yeah, more knee wrestling, less Navy ride to turns and everything else. I'm not gonna lie, I got a little excited when I saw him hit a Navy ride. Like I was like, "That's awesome." You don't see that very much anymore.
I go, Cortland, look, it's a Navy ride. Look. I just went over this with you.
It is one of those things when you see it, you're like, "Holy shit! I didn't expect that."
Those are still
really
around.
don't.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah, Robbie, your thoughts?
I mean, he looked good. I think he was certainly in the moment and enjoying the atmosphere. He's a known commodity. We know how good Jax is, and we've seen him against good competition. The match with Seidel was fantastic. He opened up a lot more this match and really showcased his offense. And we haven't seen that against good competition from him this season. And that was really cool to see because, I mean, Ayala's not having a great year. There's no two ways about that. But he is a two-time NCAA finalist, and we know what he's capable of. And his wins are all for the most part, pretty highly separated wins that he scores a lot of points and looks really good doing it. And he did not look like he was anywhere in that match. Like he didn't belong out there.
Yeah. I mean, I think most of us were picking Jax Forrest to win that match. I think a good amount of people, unless you're an Iowa fan, you're picking Jax Forrest to win that match. And I was completely surprised by the fact that I honestly thought that he had pinned him. The cradle that he put him in, I thought Ayala was pinned. So like it could have been, but like honestly, I feel like the win that he got was worse than worse than if he would have pinned him, because he
more
just
demoralizing. For sure.
Like he just turned him. He did basically whatever he wanted throughout the entire match, right? And it's just like outside of like the scramble in the first period where it looked like Ayala was going to score, and Jax was able to scramble out of it, cause stalemates, everything else, like just the body control and the awareness was, just incredible. So like, but that cradle, you wouldn't expect Ayala to get stuck there. A guy that is, the vet of the match, you wouldn't expect him to be stuck in that position. You would think that he would know how to scramble out of it, turn, do whatever he needs to do to not get put in that cradle. And like I said, I thought that he was pinned, and that would have definitely sent them into a complete frenzy. But like the tech fall is definitely more demoralizing. 19-3 is a lot, and I even think that if he didn't get the tech, I mean, he probably still would have gotten the tech with like a riding time point or something like that. Like I think he even had over a minute of riding time as well. So just a complete match for Jax Forrest. Very impressive. 33 is going to be the weight class to watch from start to finish at NCAAs. And, I'm glad.
You guys think Jax is the favorite after this match? Just looking at, Ayala's losses, 4-2 to Blaze, 4-2 to Davino. All these matches are close. Jax comes out there, kicks the shit out of him. I know it doesn't translate, obviously. You still got to wrestle, but the way he puts up points and isn't afraid to go out there and let it fly, is that beneficial to him, or does that not mean much to you guys?
It means a good bit, but I don't know if he's the favorite in my eyes yet.
Yeah, I don't think he's the favorite. They also think that weight is full of gunslingers, and that's why it's so unpredictable. So at this point, I don't know that there is a favorite for 33.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have a returning champ who I think a lot of people are kind of writing off because he's out of all these guys, he's not the gunslinger. He's the more kind of steady-handed guy, and a bunch of young guns coming up that we don't know what to expect. So I don't know that there really is a leader in the clubhouse for 33.
Well, I'm just going to say it because Robbie's too afraid to. I think Aaron Seidel is probably my favorite moving forward.
I think,
I'm just
like I said last week, I think Seidel beats him next time. No, one thing I was going to point out with that, like with that cradle, and you see the same thing from Seidel. Him and Jax both are so unassuming. They're both just lanky. They don't look super strong, but something about the grip strength they have and the leverage they can find, it's freaky because they're turning guys who don't get turned, and it's impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say that Jax is the favorite. It is a pretty open race. I mean, maybe I'm continuing to stick with the short king because he is the returning champ and because I went with him last year and he did what he did, but like that's a clash of styles for anyone and Lucas Bird because he slows down a match, he puts you essentially in a phone booth. He doesn't allow guys to get their offense going because of how he wrestles.
And he's used to wrestling lankier people. So
Yeah,
we're
he's
good there.
been smaller than most guys throughout his entire life. Um, and that's, also his off the mat life as well. It's just being the short king that he is. But like he does slow matches down. And I talked to him in Nashville and I was like, it feels like ever since you learned what your style was in college, you were able to do similar things that you did in high school. He's like, yeah, it took me a little bit to really like find it, but then finding that confidence to slow the match down or wrestle the match the way that he wants is what has benefited him. And you've seen it whether a match is 2-1 or whether he wins, 7-2. It's his ability to slow a match down and wrestle his match. Now, to these young guys' credit, though, they're not really allowing guys to even get there. So that's where the clash of styles.
That's what I was going to say. I'm so excited for Jax. I feel like he's not going to allow that to happen, whether he wrestles a Blaze or a Bird who like to slow it down, stay in good position. Jax is going to kind of force you to open up and wrestle his style, whether they like it or not. So it's going to be fun to watch just to see those clash of styles and, whose style is going to get favored there. Probably Jax. He's probably going to throw some crazy shit at you and then, now we're scrambling. This is where I want to be kind of situation, right? So, yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah, and I think Ayala is going to hit one of these guys potentially early. Like
the quarters, yeah.
Yeah, he's most likely what, like 4 or 5 seed, I think.
If that.
Ayala will probably be like Bird has to be number 1. I know people want Blaze to be the number 1 seed. It's still Bird. I get it. Yeah, like
I guess
it's
probably 4.
It's still Bird. I understand there's the analytics behind certain things and his resume. If I would be very surprised if they did not make Lucas Bird the 1 seed, being a returning champ at Big Tens at least.
Yeah,
and it's Bird, it's Blaze, Davino is your 3, Ayala is probably your 4.
because he's got the win over Van D, who would be the 5.
Yeah. So, and I know like we're getting ahead of ourselves, but that's kind of my thought on 133 in the Big Ten at least. So, let's continue down this Cowboy pathway. I want to jump to that 165 Mikey Caliendo win over Dee Lockett. And I tweeted it and Dee retweeted it. I don't know if it was a passive aggressive, I see this, or shut up old man kind of a thing. But I didn't like his tactics, right? Like we've seen how well Dee wrestles. We've seen his ability to score. He has certainly wrestled maybe a little bit tighter as the season has gone on, or a little bit, maybe it's confidence of knowing that he doesn't need to maybe exert himself early in a match and he can get the, score when he wants to score. But I didn't like the approach that he had. And, you listen to Rock doing commentary and he says, that he was able to talk to Dee before the match and his game plan was to come out, score a takedown early, score another takedown in the second period, and then be more defensive in the third and score counters. He didn't have a chance to do that because Caliendo flipped the script, and Caliendo actually had more shots in the first period than he had in their entire match the last time that they wrestled. So like he came out to attack and he came out to put Dee on the defensive. And then just again the tactics of Dee gaining an escape and walking to the edge of the mat before turning, and then being down on his knees. And if we're gonna call it out for Ferrari, we got to call it out here for Dee Lockett. It's an inactivity. You're not able to score there, at least in the position that you're in on all fours. So, and like I said, I love Dee. I think he's an ultimate competitor. I had nothing but good things to say in his first win against Caliendo on Twitter, but like, you've changed a bit. It looks like he's gotten maybe he was a little too comfortable with wrestling close matches and thought that he'd be able to get there, but Caliendo made the right decisions and made the right adjustments. So, was impressed by Caliendo. Think that Dee probably needed that loss, to be completely honest with you. Robbie, your thought?
I mean, that's kind of what I said last week. I think he felt like he was trying to get a little too cute and not really wrestling the way he's able to, and kind of stepping away from that offense and not putting his foot on the pedal like he had been most of the season. And that can work against some lower tier guys, but that's not going to work against Caliendo. And I think Caliendo wrestled a fantastic match. He learned from their last match. He kept himself in good position. He was the aggressor when he needed to be and controlled the mat the entire match. So that's kind of the blueprint that a vet should have against a young guy who is able to score points, but didn't ever really go after it like he has been. So I think in the long run, I think this is going to be really good for Lockett, because I think he needed a wake-up call, and I think this probably will do it.
Yeah. I mean, because if you think about it, right, like you look at this match with Dee and Caliendo, and then you look at a match between Caliendo and Messenbrink, and it is night and day. Like Messenbrink's like, I'm not leaving the first period without like 9 points on the board, right? Like you're not going, you may keep it close with Messenbrink if you slow him down, but walking to the edge is going to get you nothing but stall warnings. So I don't know. Austin, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think long run, I agree with both you guys. This was probably good for Lockett. Because like Rock said in the commentary, Lockett's strategy was to kind of go out, get an early takedown, and that didn't happen, right? So his game plan was kind of off. It kind of being a freshman maybe rattled him a little bit, didn't really have a response to that. So I think if that happens in postseason, I think he'll be more ready to adapt and change that and go out and get a takedown when he needs it. And, 65 was similar, I think, to 25, 57, and I think 74 a little bit, where the guy that went out and got that first takedown set the momentum for that match. And then I don't want to say coasted, but they kind of controlled and dictated the rest of the match there. So kind of saw that in a few of these bouts that weren't complete blowouts. Whoever scored the first takedown was kind of in cruise control the rest of the match there, which was what I think guys should start be doing a lot more often, instead of standing around, wait until overtime, go get a takedown in the first, and then you're kind of in control then.
Yeah. Claunch?
Yeah, I mean, sure, good for Lockett to an extent, but he did lose the match, and Caliendo did beat him. Yeah. Like, good for Caliendo. He avenged a loss on the road against a guy that's ranked higher than him and has a win over him on the year. I mean, this is a bigger win for Caliendo in my mind. If his goal coming into this year is to eventually beat Mitchell Messenbrink, which I can only imagine, like, he's got to have like a weird room where he's just got pictures of Messenbrink all over his room just to motivate him to get up and work harder. And then there's
it's like my closet.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Do you think that Caliendo listens to the Jonas Brothers now? He just has that song on repeat all the time.
Yes.
I'd like to think so. Anyway, no, good for Caliendo getting this win again on the road. That's a huge win for him going into the Big Tens here. He's going to want to. I mean, he's going to be the third seed going into it, and that's not where you want to start. But at least you're on the opposite end of the bracket anyway from Mitch. So, and then he'll have another chance to avenge a loss potentially. So, yeah, good for him.
Yeah, Caliendo is very good, and he deserves the props for making the adjustments that he made. Because in their first match, it was kind of flipped, where Caliendo wasn't firing off shots and Dee had everything to prove and went out and won the match and scored a good bunch of points in that first one too. So Also, the one thing that I forgot to say about the Jax Forrest match, his last takedown to score the tech was one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen. Like, it was way too, like, he just went straight into it. But yeah, Caliendo deserves all the praise for making the adjustments and getting the win. I think we need to jump to 84. I mean, 74, good job by Kennedy. You know, we talked about him being kind of a sumo wrestler a little bit and straight leg and pushing. I feel like
We showed some scrambles though.
he did show some scrambles, and I think that
Ankle pick was sweet too.
he was also being able to showcase, like, I'm going to, like, using that pressure to his what am I trying to say? Using the pressure to his benefit, and to his advantage, right? Yeah. So you see him pushing straight leg, lots of pressure, and then he's able to just kind of disappear on it. So I think he's done a very good job of, you know, maybe playing a little rope-a-dope throughout the year of showcasing how much pressure he's going to put on a guy and wear a guy out. And now he's moving his feet a lot more. So I thought that was really awesome. 84 was a dumpster fire. It was so bad. I mean, Burroughs called it before the first whistle blew, and Burroughs is like, this is going to go to overtime. It's like,
should have just started it there.
Should have. You each have a point. Now go wrestle. Gabe Arnold had a takedown, guys. Like, he had a takedown. The same position that he got hosed on against Ohio State, he just got hosed on against Oklahoma State. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Gabe Arnold had a takedown. He won that match. And this reaction time bullshit is pathetic. It really, truly is. Your reaction time varies depending on who's reffing your match. Mm-hmm. When he was, you know, against Ohio State, reaction time for Gabe Arnold was like 1 second. Reaction time in this bout was about 2.7 seconds. Like, it was not as quick of a reaction. So, and the fact that he hit him with stalling, he's out of bounds. He's completely
the shot happened out of bounds.
Yes. Yep.
Like he could have turned it to be parallel with the line instead of kicking straight back. Like, he could have made an adjustment there so it wasn't potential, so wouldn't be called at all. But that situation, it shouldn't have been. The shot was out of bounds, so like, it wasn't a legitimate shot. He didn't try to flee. He was kicking out of a hold. That's defense. That's not evading wrestling. That's not stalling. That's how you get out of a fucking single leg. You got to kick out of it. There's no.
Arnold should have just basically did a split, and his foot would have hit the stage, and they would have called it dead. Nothing would have happened.
Or they could have called that stalling, because that's more evading than kicking out of it is.
Could have. But it was just horrible call.
It goes back to the same thing. Like, there's no consistency at all with that call. You have 7 different refs. They're going to call it a different way each time. And it's fucking infuriating. Like, we can't go into the postseason having no reasonable expectation of knowing how something's going to be called. Like, understand that there's going to be a little gray area because it's subjective, right? So there's going to be some gray area, but it shouldn't be this wide of a separation of gray area. There needs to be some middle ground where we're basing things off of, instead of just being like, oh, fuck, maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. Because that's what it feels like right now. Like, nobody knows what's going to happen.
Yeah. And we'll
kick out.
Get
maybe
into,
we saw, maybe we won't.
Yeah. We'll get into the refs and stuff a little bit later. We've got some interesting information from a couple of different refs. But the stall call was just horrendous, because then the heavyweight match, they go out of bounds and he calls an action call. And I'm like, that was worse than the Gabe Arnold one. Like, at least Gabe was out of bounds and was sitting out of bounds for a while. And now you don't know what you're calling. Or maybe you're calling it because they're heavyweights and because one is obviously outmatched in this entire match right now. So you're having some sympathy for the guy that's outmatched in this matchup. But, like, and let's call it is also, like, Gabe Arnold's winning or losing didn't make this dual meet. Iowa would have lost no matter what. Like, wouldn't have changed anything, but it would have brought things a little bit closer. And I think that's what Iowa fans are probably pissed off about. But like, the calls were just wrong, like flat out wrong. Claunch, your thoughts?
It's hard because I think in any other year I'd probably agree with you, but I've seen it called both ways so many different times this year that it's like, and this is what we're going to get to, which is the root cause of the problem, is that nobody knows what a takedown is anymore. And it's been so inconsistent that it's like, I don't know. If the ref didn't think it was a takedown, then I guess it wasn't a takedown, like half the time in other matches versus half the time it has been a takedown in other matches. So it's like nobody knows anymore, and that's what sucks. I think just if you just eliminate a reaction time, like just get rid of it. It ups scoring anyway, or at least theoretically it would. When we have too much reaction time, you can also make the difference, and we're getting into all these sort of scrambles and roll throughs, which is where people are hurting their knees. If you're just taken down, you don't need to dive under the leg and start the situation where people are going to get, called potentially dangerous or whatever it is. Anyway, separate tangent. I don't know, the out of bounds thing. I see where you're coming from, but it was kind of like, I don't remember which commentator said this, but it was basically like he's got to circle in more. He's got to try to make it look better, which comes back to the Jordan Williams one we had earlier this year. It's like, I hate that optics matter, but evidently they do for some reason. Like, anybody who's wrestled before knows that if you're in that position, you have to kind of dive out. You can't push your way back into it. Otherwise, it's just giving him the takedown. And your whole point is to avoid the takedown. So, that was a tough call. I didn't like the way that it ended, but it's hard for me to say whether it was or was not a takedown just based on what we've seen this year.
Austin.
Based on what we know a takedown to be, it's easy to tell. But based on how they've been called this year, who the fuck knows?
Right. Exactly. Nobody knows anymore, in my mind, including the refs.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too, because I've been in a wrestling room for 25 years, whatever, how long it's been. Like, anyone that has been in a room for more than 5 years, they know what that is. They know what a takedown is, and that takedown on the edge that Arnold had, but they didn't call it. That's a takedown. You ask anyone that's wrestled at that level, 9 times out of 10, they're probably going to say, hey, that's a control. He's behind the arms. It's a takedown. I think it's, I don't know if it's going to happen, but I think the refs need to get together, and there needs to be a video review of all these takedowns that were questionable throughout the year and say, hey, this is a takedown because XYZ. Show the next clip. This is not a takedown because XYZ. Just so all the refs are on the same page, all the conferences are on the same page, moving in the postseason. Send it out to the coaches. They'll distribute that to their athletes, distribute it out to the fans, media, whatever, just so everyone is understanding, like, hey, this is a takedown, this is not, and this is the reasoning behind it. Whether that happens or not, probably won't, but if they want to save face, and I shouldn't say save face, if they want to have some consistency and understand what their thought process is, something needs to happen, or we're just going to keep going over this after conferences, after NCAAs, and bitch about it all year long until we get changes all season long.
You know what really sucks, and my apologies if I've said this here, if I was saying this to the other coaches, but these like reaction time, no takedown, like, long drawn out, like complete control takedown things that's going on. It's making its way to the youth. And now I've got like 7-year-olds trying to get takedowns, and they're like, oh, reaction time, they're still rolling through. It's like, it's fucking 3. He's 7. Give him a takedown. He has no idea what he's doing. He's wearing shorts, a t-shirt, and socks. Just give him the takedown. Anyway.
Yeah, these wrestlers are just too good nowadays. Like you meant with the scrambling. Like, I don't like just a hand touch takedown, but like hand touch and then they do another action. That should be a take. It's too drawn out. These wrestlers are too good. They're too athletic. They know they game the rules too much. The mat's too small. I can go on, but make takedowns easier to get. You'll see higher scoring. I think it'll be better in the long run. It's bad right now. It needs to get fixed.
Mm-hmm. It just continues to get worse. I mean, I can remember the reaction time takedown with, Hidley Nolf in the finals. like it just continues to get worse. So like consistency is like the least of the things that we're asking for. It's like, just give us some transparent explanations of what you're looking for. But it's gonna take a while. Overall with this duel though, Oklahoma State just absolutely flexed. I mean, the score would change 3 points if you give Gabe Arnold the takedown. There's not much that I was able to do in this regard. Like Oklahoma State just basically flexed the whole time. And the youth between Jax Forrest and Sergio Vega at 33 and 41 is a hell of a 1-2 punch. You know, I love that Jax Forrest is in the lineup. Still even a little bit confused by it, but I think it's great that he was able to do what he's done this year. And we'll see kind of how it pans out. I think it's kind of obvious we'll get like an Olympic red shirt from him in 28. And, if that's not the case, it's pretty wild. But the plan should certainly involve an Olympic red shirt for Jax Forrest. But I think, it's going to be a very interesting 133. I can't wait to get to that show where we make our picks and discuss some of these bigger matchups where we get our brackets and stuff too. But 33 is going to be fun. It's certainly going to be fun. Oklahoma State is definitely stepped up with the youth movement and having so many freshmen in the lineup that are making such a big impact. It's pretty incredible. Let's jump to some other things, some other dual meets that went down. Kevin, I'm going to kick it over to you. You were pretty jazzed up about Purdue, Indiana last week, and then obviously Central Michigan had a couple of duels against Michigan State and Michigan. So take your pick. Which one you want to jump in on first?
Yeah, I'll start with the Hoosier State, and that's where it is going to what we'll refer to it as for the remainder of this year, I guess. They ended up getting a nice win over Purdue at home there, had some big wins. Joey Butler's a guy who I think was like 0-4, 0-5 on the year against ranked opponents up until recently. Shoot, I don't remember who it was. I referenced it last week. But anyway, he won that match. And then he just beat Gavin Brown, another ranked wrestler for Purdue. So he's won his last 2 matches against ranked opponents. So good win for him. Tyler Lillard did lose his match to Joey Blaze, but it was very, very close. It ended up being a 4-3 decision. If we're talking about
that takedown,
iffy takedown calls, I mean, there we go again, right? I mean, nobody knows one way or another what things are going to be called. And it is what it is, right? I mean, that one wasn't at least like, I don't know. It is what it is. We don't know what takedowns are. Nobody does. It's just whatever they're called in the moment is what's going to be called. But still, even in the loss, nice win or a nice match for Tyler Lillard. Gilcher gets it done over Brody Bauman. That was a nice upset there, beating him 9-2. And then you had 184 and 197. Sam Goen and Gabe Solers getting wins there. So yeah, very impressive. It was the 4 consecutive wins against Purdue in that series. So good for them. But yeah, Indiana in general has put together a really, really strong team. They've got Jackson Bloom, who's redshirting this year as well. So he'll be stepping into the lineup there for them next year. But yeah, really, really impressive squad there. Central did get a win Friday night, so I was happy about that. They beat Michigan State in a pretty good duel there. 125 was really close. 133, and in fact, I should really shout out Andrew Austin. He had 2 wins on the weekend, I believe, getting a win over Gage Botero on Sunday and getting a win over, where did I put that? I had it open. Oh, there it is. Caleb Weand of Michigan State at 133 as well. Weand was a national qualifier last year at 125, and it's been pretty consistently good throughout this season. He's usually been ranked somewhere in the high 20s, low 30s. But yeah, I mean, that was a fun one. The one against Michigan, a little bit less fun for the Central Michigan fans. A lot of paddling going on there. But you did get Luke Cochran getting a nice win over Hayden Walters at 197. Outside of that, it was pretty much Michigan doing work. 157, though, Mason Schrader was this close to beating Cam Catcherbone. Got I think it was a takedown, but then gave up a reversal. Or no, gave up an escape to send it to overtime with like in the last, 10th of a second, and then gave a takedown there. But would have been a really nice win for him. But in general, Central Michigan doing their best. Happy for that squad. Happy to still get another win over Michigan State. But yeah, good times. Good times this weekend.
Nice. Austin, on the U in the EIWA, no Army Navy took place. So what do you got over there?
Yeah, like I mentioned in the weigh-in, it's on Navy's YouTube page. Really good battle. Army came out strong, won the first two bouts, and then they were winning 41. And then Caden Ricciardi from Navy headlocked Braden Basil from Army. Little 9-point swing there, got Navy right back in it. A little bit back and forth. Navy was winning, and then Army had to win at 97 and heavyweight to clinch the match, and they won by a point. Overall, heavyweight came down to a 2-0 win with an escape point and a ride-out point for Brady Colbert. And those two guys are 13 and 14 in the country. So ended on a really good match. Really good duel. Go check that one out. Really cool atmosphere. And it's one of those, it's one of those matches, and I say it every year, it's more than wrestling, right? Mm-hmm. Naval Academy, Army West Point, they do a lot more than just wrestle there. Just the stuff that they do after wrestling and graduation is, it's one of a kind. So it's really cool rivalry. Go check that one out. Lehigh traveled to Arizona State. Didn't have a lot of backups in, didn't have a lot of starters, just a few guys banged up, getting ready for conferences. Major result there was David Zuba at heavyweight beat Nathan Taylor. And then Nico Ruiz win over Brignola in overtime at 65. So two pretty, I think, top 12 guys there. Really good bout. I'm sure Robbie's going to touch on NC State Cornell. Just really good duel there Friday night. Jackson Joy with the loss. I said Biskins with the win over Jackson Joy. Ruiz had a nice comeback win at 74. But yeah, I think just kind of saw Jackson Joy with that bad shot in overtime. Definitely maybe feeling the moment a little bit. Didn't really expect it to be that close. Maybe a little bit of a Ivy League homer in me, but I think Joy wins that one next time around. I think that loss was, again, good for him, just kind of be in that position, wrestling, trying to squeak it out somehow. But great match by Biskins, great strategy and, put it on him, wrestle tough. Shout out to American. I know Claunch is wearing the shirt. They had 2 wins, one over Drexel, one over Clarion. I know Drexel had some starters out, resting, healing up. American pretty much had a full lineup. So they went out to win, and they did. It was awesome. And I always talk about Bucknell being a really tough team. I talk about Columbia being a tough team every year. Columbia beat Bucknell 30-6 this weekend. So
there you go.
Columbia had a full lineup in as well, had a lot of good wins. And yeah, Columbia's a pretty damn good team. And so was Bucknell, but Columbia just kind of put it on this weekend. So yeah, that's pretty much everything that happened at EIWA and Ivy, and just a little bit of SoCon. Saw there was a 3-way tie for the regular season duels. I thought that only happened in the ACC. Guess I was wrong, but pretty cool. So shout out to Chattanooga, App State, and Citadel. 3-way tie. Doesn't happen often, but it shows how competitive that league is. The conference doesn't get a lot of attention, but there's some good scrapping going on there for sure.
Yeah, Claunch, I know you had some love for the SoCon too. You had been talking about that in the group chat too.
Yeah, I was watching, as I assume most people were on Sunday, Chattanooga and Bellarmine. That was a good duel. Cooper Flynn going out there doing some work. Also, shout out to Ethan Uhorchuk for Chattanooga. They lose Blake Borman to the transfer portal, and then this dude Uhorchuk just slides right in at 133. I just noticed he was ranked in the 30s by Earl as well in Intermat. So I I just love that city. My dad's from there. I've driven through there. They've got an awesome aquarium. Chattanooga is a cool place. A lot of hills. Very, very hilly area.
Are they alive with the sound of music?
They something like that. Yeah.
They have eyes.
Yeah, they have eyes.
The hills
That's
do have
probably more
eyes.
likely.
Yeah, probably certain areas of those hills. But no, I was watching some of that this weekend. Obviously, our friends at Gardner Webb. I was just looking at that. Oh yeah, they wrestled App State. TK Davis. We haven't shouted him out enough. He's
had
quietly,
a hell of a year.
Yeah, he's been quietly kicking ass at 133.
18-1
all season long. And is currently ranked. Where is he? 16th.
16th.
Yeah. Imagine that. 19-1, ranked 16th. No, I'm just we've talked about how deep 133 is. But no,
get it together, Earl.
I know, right?
God damn.
I'd say put him above everyone except for Lucas. But no, it's it's been a fun year in the SoCon. Lots of good competition there, and yeah, good times.
Nice. Give us some ACC talk, Robbie. Is there a 3-way tie brewing? I know you already talked about Virginia Tech, but they might change that. I know how much they like to share things in the ACC.
No, they don't like to. The people in Charlotte like to share things. The teams do not like to share them. No, it was the final weekend of duels. It was pretty lopsided everywhere, to be quite honest. UVA was up at Pitt for the final match in Fitzgerald Fieldhouse before they open their new facility next year. And Pitt actually absolutely shit stomped UVA 37-0. UVA did give up a forfeit at 133 because Marlon Yarbrough got sick before the match. So it's a little bit misleading there, but not much because there's only 2 close matches. There's one decision that was a 7-point decision. There's Cade Brown beat Denkins, Winton Denkins in tiebreaker, just got him to his back, 1-6-1, and then Jared Kessler beat Michael Murphy in sudden victory. Otherwise, everything was a major decision except for the top and the bottom. It was a 2-1 win for Chapel over Roller and a 7-1 win for Pitts over Brennan Morgan. So great night for Pitt, not a fantastic night for UVA. It's kind of same to be said for Stanford traveling to Chapel Hill. We know that Stanford has incredibly strong lower weights, and they've kind of been leaning on some backups and not strong starters at some of their upper weights, but they even showed out. Provo beat Terrakina, Knox beat Oakley, both in pretty close matches. Consiglio pinned Simcox. This is Luke Simcox's first match back, like 3 weeks, maybe 4. He's been out for a while. Was ranked up to number 10. He's been having a hell of a season. Simcox was up 6-0, and Consiglio got a reversal, which he gets a lot of from bottom. It's really interesting to watch him from bottom. Shout out to his dad. I talked to him at the UVA match, and he said to watch for that, and he did that to Porter as well. So got the reversal and got Simcox with a bottom leg cradle and pinned him. So that was impressive. Valencia Cardenas both took care of duty. EJ Parco, huge win over Bryce Hepner. Parco was at 149 to start the season. And with Garvin being out, he said he would step up and go to 165 and is filled out a little bit. He's still pretty small for the weight, but he's been looking really good. So big win for him. And then Angelo Posada continues his big run into the top 10 as a true freshman, looking fantastic at 197. Duke was up at Virginia Tech. Nothing surprising there. Virginia Tech rested a lot of starters. They had backups in at 25, 49, 74 they forfeited, and 285. So Barkett won over Parker Farrell. Aiden Wallace got a forfeit. Dylan Ross looked good again in his win, but otherwise it was not a stellar matchup there. But probably best duel of the night was non-ACC. It was NC State hosting Cornell. NC State got off to a great start. They started at 97. Brophy won with a decision. Trumbull got a tech fall. Vince Robinson beat Greg Giacomahalis 5-1. Zach Redding got a tech fall. So they were up big to start. And then great match, Cornell and Ryan Jack. Cornell won by decision there. Coy Biskin's Jackson Joy. If you guys have not watched that match yet, go back and watch it. It's fucking fantastic. It's a great match. Biskin's winning that in sudden victory.
Oh, spoiler alert.
Sorry. I guess it wasn't sudden victory. It was at the end of the match where he got that second takedown. But fantastic match. Go back and watch that one. And it's a Austin hit on it. He said that he thought that Jackson would probably get that one back. It's very possible. But they're very, very fun matchup to watch. Different body styles, but they're both great scramblers. Meyer Shapiro beat the shit out of Luca Felix. And this is where it made me mad because it lost me money because they didn't cover. Will Dunny did not wrestle at 165, which I found very interesting because I don't know if he was not – I don't know that he's dinged up at all. So that one kind of surprised me. Great match at 74. Singleton got out to an early lead over Ruiz, 2 takedowns. It was 6-1. Matty actually broke his tooth on the second shot, like exploded. It was crazy, like tooth pieces all over the mat. So hopefully they have a good dentist on call there because that sucks. But then Ruiz clawed back in and ended up winning at 8-6. Fantastic finish from him. Really showed some grittiness. That would have been a really big win for Singleton if you were able to get it. And then the final match came down to the final match. NC State won 19-18. In all reality, I think Donald Cates should have been stalled out of that match. He didn't do anything offensively to stay in that match, and Sergio was pushing him all over the mat. And he got up to 2 stall points, so 5 stall calls, and didn't get the last one. So I think it could have been pretty justified if they would have called it, to be quite honest. So NC State holds on for the 1918 win, and then Cornell went to Duke the next day and beat the shit out of them.
As one does.
As they do.
In the Big 12, I mean, we obviously talked about Oklahoma State beating Iowa. Some of the other big ones, Iowa State beats Missouri and Northern Iowa beats Wisconsin. So Northern Iowa was 16-15 over Wisconsin, and Iowa State was 20-14. The big one, I mean, obviously the tearjerker was Bastida finally is going to be done after his 30th birthday. He'll no longer be in the lineup for Iowa State, but
Dresser might find some way to get another.
Yeah, game. I'm joking. I kid. But the match was at one. The match to watch was at 149, where Seth Mendoza beat Jacob Frost 8-2. So that was certainly the headline for that one. But the others went just about as expected. On top of that, Max Mayfield, who we were talking about on Twitter, where he only has one X in his name, but he added a second one.
Somebody said that
social media handle, and that's why he has 2 on the roster.
I don't know if that's legitimate or not, but if that is, that's hilarious.
That's incredible. I'm gonna add an extra Y to my name and see if people catch on.
Well, it was Justin Oliver who was saying that.
Yeah.
He's a coach and is not. He's a Chippewa. Like, I trust him. Like,
and he's a ginger, so I trust him.
Why would he make that up?
He's a straight shooter.
I mean, that's incredible. But Mayfield gets the win.
I hope it's true because that's hilarious.
Yeah, the extra X. It honestly looks cooler to have an extra X on the name.
He doesn't get triple X because then he's not going to be able to be on primetime.
Yeah. He should. I mean, what he needs to do going in the creating WWE personas. I mean, there's so much you could do with that. I mean, you could literally just be Generation X if you really wanted to be. Max Mayfield, just keep going with the X's is what I think it is. But no, Mayfield gets the win. Mendoza gets the win over Frost in the UNI battle. See, I just had it in front of me. The big one there was Ratchie beating Zargo 7-4 in sudden victory. As you remember, Ratchie used to be rocking a different Iowa singlet. He was in the black and gold. Now he's in the purple and gold. So he gets the 7-4 win over Zargo. Sima wins 3-0. Trying to look at this box score right here. I think those are really the top ones. I mean, Braxton Amos gets a 6-1 win. We said how large he is before. But yeah, I think Ratchy beating Zargo in overtime was the headliner for the match there. But it was UNI getting the win over Wisconsin 16-15. But let's turn the page. I know we've talked about refs and bad calls, and we talked about 84 at Oklahoma State, Iowa, and it's funny because, and I think we joked about it a couple of weeks ago, the way Facebook likes to send you memories from 2 to 13 years ago. We got a memory on Facebook of the show, and one of the topics was, what is a takedown? And we have continued to ask that, and mind you, that show was from 2 years ago, and we've continued to ask that. I think we started the season off by talking about what is a takedown, and we're continuing with the same question. Referees just refuse to answer it. That's the problem. But we were given some I guess behind the curtain information from a couple of different refs about some things. And Robbie, I'm going to go to you mostly because the things that Austin got, you confirmed or were vehemently denied. So I'm going to start with you, Robbie, and then we'll go to the things that Austin had gotten.
Yeah, so I'm lucky to call Mike McCormick a friend. He's the lead official for NCAA wrestling. Virginia guy, son Patrick wrestled at UVA. Just good guy all around. So anytime I have officiating questions or complaints, I go straight to Mike. I mean, there's no sense in going through hoops if I have a direct contact, right? So talk to Mike about a couple of the questions that were raised from some other officials. One of them being that they're tracking certain calls and there's thresholds. If they call these things too many times, they're not eligible. That one was very much denied. He said they're not tracked. Data is tracked for every call that they make, but that's just for improvement and statistics and going over how things work within different conferences.
And for transparency, those were stall calls that
yes,
being said that we were tracking.
And kind of the conversation with that was, that's not really a metric that they can track well because it's so match dependent. Like just talking about the matches we just talked about, like their stalls were called with Arnold, and I would have wanted more stall calls against Donald Cates, right? So it's all subjective. You can't control how many are going to be called with any given match. The object is to elicit offense by using them as penalties and to get things going. So while they are tracked, every call is tracked, right? Just in terms of match data, but they're not used as a metrics to qualify or disqualify anyone from postseason officiating. The interesting part of the conversation, and I've talked to Mike a few times about this, but how different things are between conferences. And a lot of it's dictated by the official that leads the conference because their interpretation is going to be passed down to the officials in that conference. And I think as a whole, we have an issue with officiating being incredibly fractured between conferences, and especially between power conferences and non-power conferences, and how much power and sway that some of those officials hold over how things are interpreted. We look at Grasso, for example, who's the second in the Oklahoma State match. He's a Big Ten guy, and he's kind of known as the ref who's going to give more reaction time than anybody else is. Like, he has a very long reaction time window, and I think that is what we saw in that Gabe Arnold takedown is that he said it was still within reaction time when they went to review. Eric McGill was the other ref there, and he normally doesn't have it at that short that long of a window. So I was kind of surprised to see that one not called. But again, I think it's these more seasoned officials in kind of higher positions and in the bigger power conferences hold more weight with the way they call things than some of the younger guys and some of the guys who are, I want to say lesser conferences, but less public conferences. I'm not the power conferences, MAC guys, SoCon guys, EIWA guys who aren't on, ESPN every weekend or Big Ten Network. So the guys who we're seeing in front of us all the time are the ones that calls are kind of being interpreted by. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that.
It's wild that conference to conference they're not on the same page, right? Like, we look at wrestling as wrestling, and obviously there are referees that are in certain conferences and everything else, but it shouldn't be this call trickles down from the top of the ACC down to the bottom of the ACC, and then this same call trickles down differently in the Big Ten or differently in the Big 12 or the SoCon or the MAC, wherever it is. Like, they should all, I mean, there should be one big ass referee Zoom call every week to get calls consistent, because I understand if you're a Big Ten wrestling fan and all you watch is Penn State wrestling or all you watch is Oklahoma State wrestling or whatever else, but like, there's going to come a time where Oklahoma State's going to wrestle Iowa, or there's going to come a time where Oklahoma State is going to wrestle Penn State, and you're kind of forced to watch a different conference. And if there's a lack of consistency in calls, that messes with the product. And it messes with the product of not just watchability, but wrestling in these matches as well, because you're so used to how something is called in your own conference, and then you get a ref from a different conference, and now you're wrestling a completely different match. I understand if you go out like, Spencer Lee or Messenbrink or any of these guys that have high motor and are just going to go and score and whatever else, you completely take the referee out of it and he's doing nothing but throwing up points. But not every match is like that. Not every wrestler is like that. So having to change tactic and style based on the referee that you have, and as well as the opponent you have, it's too much. You should be able to just wrestle your match and not have to worry about how the referee is going to interpret a rule that you've been wrestling under for so many years, and now it changes because you have a ref that is from a different conference. But I don't know. Claunch, your thoughts?
Well, I think it's important to point out that, refs do have meetings and they talk to each other, and they do, like, the ones at this level at least, right? Like, they are working hard to get this figured out, and I don't doubt that. What it really says to me is that somewhere, some way, it just got cloudy and messed up. And it's important to like admit that at this point and say, okay, we need to clear this up and get on the same page and figure it out. And Holmes, I like how you pointed out, like, it's not like, this is not the 1920s, right? Like, where there's a legend that built from 3 towns over about a kid who could lift, a log on his back and walk up some steps, right? Like, no, I mean, like, you can jump on a Zoom call and do this from, Pennsylvania and Texas and Virginia and Michigan, right? Like, it's not that hard, So, if everybody does need to absolutely get together and get this figured out before NCAAs, or certainly before conferences, because it's going to be a mess. The reaction time thing, and the fact that we even know, like, which guys are going to call what, like, that sucks. That sucks. Yeah. That's why we're going to get more people sitting on their knees and wrestling from their knees, because they don't want to,
Which doesn't fucking get called.
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Like, hey, you know what's stalling? That. And also, this is a takedown.
Yeah. On the note of clarifying things, they do meet bi-weekly. All the refs that are the head of conferences and on the review committee for postseason meet every 2 weeks and look at what they consider like contentious calls or ones that got a lot of publicity and pushback. So they're looking at them and they're kind of formulating opinions on them, but it doesn't seem to me like they're disseminating any sort of clarity. Like they're not passing down any sort of, well, this is what we saw. This is the way it needs to be called. That doesn't seem like it's being done. I'm hopeful that that happens before conferences and NCAAs, but it doesn't seem like that's been done. So they're looking at them, but it doesn't seem like that information that they're gathering is being passed down.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that we meet twice as much as the rules committee does to make these decisions is a problem, right? Like, we have a weekly fucking podcast, and they're meeting bi-weekly. Get it together, refs.
And from my understanding, which may or may not mean anything, I believe that review committee is all retired refs, so they're not actively reffing.
Some of them are.
Some of them are. Okay, so yeah, I know there are some retired refs on there, and
but even that,
not to say that's a bad thing. It's just they're not actively reffing. Like, they're not really out there. It's different once you see it live versus video. I mean, you guys know how it is, and I don't know. Maybe that's nothing. Maybe it's something. I don't know. But
if you don't use it, you lose it. That's how it is.
Yeah.
I've been married long enough that that's not true. With that,
not lost. Right here. I know exactly where it is.
It's in a glass case, broken once a year.
Breaking case of emergency.
They are making
just have a top. Why are we breaking glass around it? We have like a screw-on top.
Oh, we're full tangent
soft
now.
Closed lid. I don't know, something that doesn't seem as dangerous.
Yeah.
Oh, week 2 that I regret things that I've said.
So back on the actual point, they are changing the process for the review committee for the NCAA tournament. In that, in the past few years, when they've had centralized review in the booth, it has been officials who aren't actively officiating at that tournament. This year, they're going to rotate through one active official from that tournament. I think you said once an hour they're changing out. So there's constantly going to be an official who is actively officiating at the NCAA tournament. So they kind of have the boots on the ground, like real-time feel of what's happening on the mat, and in hopes that can benefit them in the review process.
That's smart. I mean, I got nothing else to say besides that being smart to have somebody that is actively doing it during this event as part of it. I do also love that they have a booth review for NCAAs. I mean, are there any of the conferences that have it too? I can't think of. Does the EIWA have it? Ivy? Because I mean, it's
the option to do it.
That's what I'm saying. It's literally an option for every duel, but this is where
logistically it's difficult.
The tight wallets come into play of not wanting to pay another ref. I don't know.
Well, on that point,
some of that. Those NIL doubloons is what I say.
Yeah. And my second point with that though is Cornell wrestled at Duke on Sunday. That match wasn't streamed. So we're asking for centralized review, but we can't stream a top 15 team versus an ACC team that's one of the richest schools in the country. We can't figure that shit out. So having a centralized review for every duel is certainly outside of our parameters right now.
Yeah. I mean, let's go the ESPN route.
Shit.
Let's just put a guy in like New York and let him watch from wherever.
I volunteer my services. I won't make the right calls, but I mean, if you want to pay me to watch wrestling, I'll do that.
They were too busy. Duke had to play Michigan in basketball that night, so they couldn't.
That's exactly what it was. They were
losing, and they lost.
No, they did beat Michigan, but yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Austin, you had gotten. I mean, full transparency. The message that Austin got was what sparked our conversations and was the domino that pushed Robbie into reaching out to McCormick and getting some of the details that he just shared. But the one we already kind of dispelled, but Austin, there was a couple other things that were in this, I guess, this text that you got about, how things are done and a little peek behind the curtain.
Yeah, Robbie pretty much nailed all of them. The one that I was told to that we didn't really touch on yet was, I guess, that review committee that reviews calls every bi-weekly, I guess. They came to conclusion that they looked at the Gabe Arnold Dylan Fishback match, and they all came to agreement that Gabe Arnold should have been given that takedown, which was the call during the dual meet, reviewed and overturned and given the Fishback. I just went back and rewatched that takedown. To me, that is still too much reaction time, in my opinion, because that's a full second and a half, almost 2 seconds, where Arnold's kind of on all fours in a quad pod, right? And then does that forward roll.
Hey, that's us.
Yeah, that's pun intended there. Shameless plug. So yeah, that's the one that, again, if that's the review committee, they're kind of leaning on that side of more reaction time is what they're looking for. Yeah, and then pretty much everything else Robbie said. And the takeaway that we really discussed too was heads of officiating for different conferences are giving kind of different directions, different what is a takedown? You know, it varies each conference, and again, that shouldn't be happening. Refs work for a conference. I'm not sure why there is no crossover for a ref. You know, if a ref lives in Pennsylvania, there is a little bit, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I just know a lot of times I go to these Ivy matches, it's pretty much the same ref. I go to the EIWA matches, it's the same refs. There's not much crossover. I think a little bit more would be beneficial.
I think what that speaks to is the amount of money that the conference is willing to pay for the officials, because they have to pay their travel costs, right? So if they're more likely to get local officials, regardless of the competency or quality of that official, if they don't want to pay the transportation costs for, you know, flying somebody out from Nevada or Oregon or, you know, wherever. You know, I would encourage everyone to, I mean, it's all public information who the NCAA registered officials are. And officiating is a very difficult job. I don't want to take that away from anybody. If you've ever done it, it's stressful as shit. And the people who do it at the NCAA level are genuinely really good at it, right? It's a lot of fast moving stuff it's hard to keep up with. There's a shitload of rules. There's interpretations of everything. There's a lot going on, right? So I don't want to take away from how good some of these guys are really doing at their job. And I think it's important to give accolades when officials do well, right? And I like to point out that, you know, this official had a really good match. Fantastic. But I think that gives us more leeway to say when things aren't going well, because then it's not as one-sided. Like, I think just like any coach, you should know about your officials. Like, it's good to know about the coach of other teams. It's good to know about the officials that are coming out there. Like, what are their tendencies, right? But I don't know. That's maybe that's a weird thing that I think is important. I don't know.
I think to an extent that happens as far as, like, you know, what you've seen, what habits they have as far as what they're going to call and what they're not going to call. I get a little concerned when we're almost saying, like, hey, you got to scout the officials too, because, like, no, this is hard enough, man. Like, we don't need to be doing that. You know, I'm already going to wrestle Mitchell Messenbrink. He's already going to beat me up. But no, I mean, it's like it's just there's a fundamental flaw in however these rules are written out and described to where it's not clear. It's simply not clear to the people who are in charge of making the calls. And that's a problem. So the rules need to change.
Yeah, I think there's nothing else that really needs to be said. We have been asking the same questions for years and years and years. We get into all of these different situations where we're left asking that same question. This weekend was no different from 2 years ago when we posed the question, as opposed to a couple months ago when we kicked off the season opening show, and we're asking the same thing. So
there's a lot of consistency. That's what we've been asking for all years is, you know, interpret it how you interpret it, but we want consistency so we know what to expect. And that's, I mean, I don't feel like that's too much to ask. I know it's difficult to do and difficult to have like a mandate when these are judgment calls, but there should be some, you know, consistency within the judgment calls because they're all based on the same rules, right? So there should be some litmus test to know where things are.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I appreciate the McCormick, for giving you the details and doing it on the record as well. I mean, obviously, we have tons and tons of conversations with people in wrestling that we do not share on this show. So the fact that you're able to shoot him a text, ask him, or get on the phone with him, and he will, as we know from a group chat, like unequivocally stress certain things in your conversation and be on the record about it is pretty awesome. So I'm hopeful
that being said too, he's can be very critical of officials when they're not doing well, and he does that very openly. So I don't think he's protecting anybody.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we get him on here at some point and pick his brain about some of the things. Maybe around rule change time, we talk to him on here and see what he's got to say. But let's turn the page. Maybe we're turning it backwards a little bit to last week as we talk about the Hodge for a little bit. There were, as I said in the open, there were a good amount of comments on last week's show about our conversation pertaining to the Hodge. And I understand, first and foremost, that the Hodge is a one-season award. And exactly, air quotes around one-season award. Because there's been a number of times that we've seen that they have been career awards as well. We've seen guys get the Hodge after multiple NCAA championships, after stringing these championships together and everything else. So the comment, I guess, that sparked, reignited, I guess, this conversation is a commenter that said that we were moving the goalposts again for a Penn State guy. When in actuality, yeah, like here's the truth of the matter, right? I feel like Jesse Mendez deserves the Hodge Trophy because of what he has done in his career, honestly, and the consistency that we have seen from him. I understand that anyone can look at anyone's resume and they can cherry pick to make their argument. This isn't I like Ohio State, I don't like Penn State thing, even though the commenters would basically say that, right? Because Carter Sirachi did not win the Hodge Trophy last year. I don't have a vote. I can't pick who the Hodge Trophy winner is. So, and if I did, it would have been Carter Sirachi. That was who I thought should have won last year. But last year is kind of an outlier in the sense of them saying that it's a one-season award where it went to Hendrickson. It went to Hendrickson because he beat Gable Steveson and was a national champion.
Optics played a big role in that one too.
Probably too, right? But like Richard Immel, USA Wrestling's Richard Immel, he's on record saying he voted for Carter Sirachi. Go look at his tweets. He said it himself. So like there's a number of people that voted for Carter and he didn't get it because for the first time in a long time, they actually applied that rule that it's a one-season award. And they didn't look at a guy's full career resume in order to do it. Because if you do, Hendrickson isn't your winner for that award. It's clearly Sirachi. He's a five-time NCAA champion. No one's ever done that. So last year's kind of an outlier, honestly. I think Jesse Mendez deserves the Hodge, point blank, period. That's just my thought on it. But no, this isn't a Penn State hater take or anything else. I just think he deserves it. That's just my opinion. And I'm not trying to move the goalposts or anything else. I think that Messenbrink is a phenomenal wrestler. I think he's an awesome wrestler and that he certainly does deserve the Hodge Trophy as well. I did not at any time say he didn't deserve the Hodge Trophy, but my thought is that I would give it to Jesse Mendez. That's just my opinion. What
Still have 2 tournaments to go too. Things can change.
Things can definitely change, right? Like
Aaron Seidel could win it.
At the point where Jax Forrest could win it. Let's be completely honest. He's undefeated right now, and he wrestled half a high school season and then came into a college season and continued to win. right? Like,
He only beat Ortega 4-0 though. Takes away
yeah,
from
this
the
is
bonus
true,
points.
but he did tech a 2-time NCAA finalist last week,
There's that.
so there is that. But guys, it's just our opinion. I would enjoy the opinion of everybody else if they didn't try to attack the things that we say for no good reason or think that we have some sort of bias against Penn State, because we don't. Besides, Robbie not liking karaoke.
Or
So
serial killer glasses.
yeah, but that's
I've been
really
on the
about
record
it.
for a long time with this. Stance
Yeah.
will not change.
Do you guys have any other thoughts on the Hodge? I mean, I kind of soapbox it a little bit, but mostly because we're not moving goalposts for anyone. It was literally just like, yeah,
Maybe
Jesse Mendez, he's kind of fucking awesome.
maybe Starachi got dinged for sportsmanship, since that's one of the criteria.
Very possible.
Well, and it's also funny to say, like, I mean, you can say whatever you want about how it's supposed to be voted on. Like, the Oscars are supposed to be based on the movie that year, but year after year, there's somebody who gets a lifetime achievement kind of, Oscar when they definitely weren't the best in that category. So that's just, we're accepting it at that level. We're
How
accepting
awards
it
work.
yeah, dude, this is just how it works, man. So, and I think it's one of those things too. Like we're having fun talking about it. I think Mitchell Messenbrink's awesome. I think Jesse Mendez is awesome. I think we're all very lucky to get the opportunity to watch them compete, and hopefully they push each other to keep kicking the shit out of everybody else, so that we can have a lively debate at the end of the year when it matters the most.
Yeah.
Full transparency. I wouldn't care one way or the other of who won. I'm just saying who I would vote for.
I think they'll probably, if everything goes to plan, everyone goes undefeated. I think they'll probably give it to Mendez simply because he's a senior. To your point, Holmes, Messenbrink has another year left, so people voting is like, oh, Mendez will get it this year, Messenbrink will win it next year. Yeah, or they'll split it. They've done that in the past too. If
Don't
they're,
do that again.
I hate it. I hate it. But if they're both pretty even and so far ahead of everyone, it's like, okay, I kind of get it, but I hate that. But I think Mendez wins it because he's a senior if he goes undefeated, and Messenbrink will get it next year. I don't know.
Yeah, we've seen the wait your turn for the award before.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I hate to end on this, but fuck it, let's do it anyway. What else you got, Claunch? You got something?
I did want to throw this in there. I forgot to mention this earlier. SIUE is the MAC West champs. That should be shouted out. We've talked about them a handful of times this season. But yeah, wanted to make sure they were shouted out. They beat Northern Illinois. I think it was 16-15. But I also wanted to make sure I shouted out Bryce West, who in that duel tied for the most wins in Northern Illinois University history. And that is one of those things that, especially in this day and age in wrestling, does not happen unless he sticks around that program. He's been a bright spot since he first showed up there. And I know talking to Coach Ludwig a handful of times about how much he thinks that kid is a stud. And he's shown it year after year after year. So wanted to make sure that got shouted out as well, as it was very positive. And I should also shout out Ryder MAC East champs going 6-0 for them. So the MAC out there representing, there's still a lot of good stuff coming on with that conference tournament coming up. So excited for that.
Yeah. So the final topic is what a lot of people were talking about over the weekend. And it was Kurt McHenry's video, where he delves into a number of different things. And like we did when the things came out with the article about Bo Bartlett and Carter Sirachi and all of those things and the accusations, we're going to stick to the things that were said and what is out there, and not try to speculate this way or the other, or whatever else. I'm not gonna repeat the things that Kurt McHenry said. You can go look up the video. You can go to his Instagram account where he posted it, and there's obviously clips on Twitter. But
I would encourage you to watch the entirety of it and not
Yes.
just the clips that are on Twitter as well, because there's a lot to it.
there is.
And I think it's worth the listen to the entirety.
Yeah, he has
Yes.
two videos he posted on his Instagram.
Yeah. And we'll get to the substance of the video, but the first thing I wanted to say is like, I'm not you don't just believe everything that people say or whatever else, but I hate how people wanted to dismiss what he said or say he's got mental issues or he's got this or he's got that. I mean, if you do go listen to the video, you will see that he is transparent about the things that he suffered from, the addiction that he had, and how he was troubled and everything else. Um, but how he straightened himself out and how he did that while at Penn State. So even though this video was not shining a good light on what happens at Penn State or potentially or allegedly happened at Penn State, I should say, he also was able to kind of pull himself back up while there too. So there was positive in that I took from that, the things that he said. Now the other thing about this is that this is not the first, he is not the first person, as I had already said, he is not the first person to say anything like this before. We have seen Bo Bartlett say things as well. We have seen how Carter Sirachi was ensnared in these things before too. And that's why I guess it's maybe a little bit harder to just dismiss the things he's saying because he's not the first person to say it. And it's not the first time that it has come out within the last year or so, right? So like you hear some of the things that he's saying, you don't want it to be true. I don't want to hear that he was called racial slurs and all the other things that happen at essentially the premier wrestling university on the planet right now. You don't want that, right? You don't want to hear or see that, but
You don't want that to see that anywhere.
Right? But when people think of wrestling right now, Penn State, they are the top of the heap. They're the face of it right now. They are, right? So the fact that this is not the first time that it's being said, it's even harder to dismiss. So for anyone that is trying to dismiss it and in any way, I don't really know how, right? Like, I mean, I do know how. I mean, there's a bias to everything. There's people on both sides where you're going to defend people and everything else, but it's very hard to just like turn a blind eye and be like, okay, maybe there is something here. But Robbie, what were your thoughts on the video and, the entire situation?
I have a lot of thoughts. First off, I mean, I'm grateful that Kurt feels like he had the strength to be honest about his experiences and to be open with them. It's a very challenging thing to do. And to put your name on some of these accusations that he's making, it's a pretty strong statement. Some of the accusations that he made are directly supportive of things that Bo Bartlett said this summer that occurred within the program. Mm-hmm. When we discussed this last time, I've gotten some heat for it, but whatever, I don't give a shit. I was very honest that I've heard other accusations from other people affiliated with the program and not affiliated with the program about the state of the locker room, some things that have happened there, things that happened outside of there from Sirachi in particular. But I think it's speaking to a bigger issue, right? And we know that based off of what Bo Bartlett's said out in the open, and now what Curtis said, there's at least one other person who is a direct victim of some sort of sexual abuse, assault within that locker room. And, I don't know if they'll come forward. I don't know. I'm not going to say who that person is. if they feel comfortable coming forward and speaking to their experience, I'm hopeful they'll do that, and that these accusations are treated seriously and actually looked at. But like you said, the immediate reaction of so many has been dismissive, either because, oh, he didn't, he was such a big hype recruit, he didn't live up to the hype. He's just bitter because he wasn't a starter, he wasn't successful, so he's speaking out against the program. It's very closed-minded, just based off of what team you root for. And I think that's a bigger issue societally that we have, is that we're very closed off to people speaking their piece because of how we perceive them or the people with whom they're affiliated. And it's troubling to me, because I don't want his accusations and his statements to be dismissed simply because he didn't have the career that people thought he was going to have. I think that's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
And if somebody is going to come out and say these things, which are very difficult to say, right? That it casts a lot of, I won't say a bad light, but a negative light on his experiences and the things that he's saying. It takes a lot of strength to say these things and to be open about them. And it's certainly not something that I think somebody's going to come out and just be like, oh yeah, fuck it, this is all lies, I'm just going to say out here in the open. That doesn't make sense to me, especially in a very closed community like Penn State is. So I don't know. It's difficult to hear. I'm glad that there is some more support coming out publicly for the things that Bartlett has said, because from things I know separately, there's support to those accusations.
Yeah. Claunch?
It's just such dangerous rhetoric to just start pointing the finger at somebody who's trying to be open. I mean, if you're a Penn State wrestling fan, like, you're probably also a human being. I think it's probably smart to maybe start thinking to yourself, like, wow, this sucks. There might be something to this. And like, as a fan of the program here, I would like the program to be less toxic, because that seems like something I would like to root for, rather than, pointing the fingers. And like, shit, I was a huge Kurt McHenry fan, still am for that matter, right? I don't want to sound like it's in past tense, but as someone who, grew up in Ann Arbor and is a Michigan fan, and when he was going to Michigan, I was like, this is great. I mean, how many conversations, guys, have we all had, probably separately and together, where it's like, oh man, he was just too small, it didn't work out, it's just a bummer. Turns out, no, he was going through some shit and was really struggling, and, had some injuries along the way too. But, to then transfer and find out that this is kind of how that experience went for him too is pretty heartbreaking, because the guy was trying to get himself together and put it, be able to put some semblance of success on the mat together as well. And to really stumble into that environment is kind of tough, I'm sure. You hope. I feel for the kid. I want him to get better and be able to move forward with his life. This is a way he's sharing his truth towards it, and trying to probably heal along the way. I can't imagine that there's some secret conspiracy out there where people are like, people who are involved and close with the program are like, hey, let's bring it down from the inside by making up a whole bunch of shit and throwing it on social media. Like, that seems really, really far-fetched. So, I'm sure more will come out.
Especially in such a small community like wrestling. Like, It's not like Bo Bartlett just never going to see his old teammates. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like that's the thing. Like, he's continuing to compete.
And I'm sure there are people on his team who were not part of that. And like, there's some level of plausible deniability, whether I agree with it or not, with the coaching staff to some extent too. Right. But like, it's, and this is not the only sport where we've had some screwed up stuff going on with.
We're the only school
program. Right. Quite frankly, at that school too. Yeah. Anyway. Anyway, sorry. All I know is it'd be great for everyone to have a safe environment when they're trying to do something difficult like wrestling.
Certainly. Austin,
at all ages.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you guys said too. And the thing that really got me was I'm sure he saw the backlash that, that Bo Bartlett and his wife Sid took on after Bo came out public with it,
And
and
they're still
And continue to take, yeah.
still, yeah. And, Sid was just an advocate for, sexual abuse, sexual assault of his own husband, of her own husband, and people she that suffered that elsewhere in life too. And, it's very sad that it happens. And Kurt still came out and did that. He was very open about even his own difficult situations too, which, it takes a lot of balls to do that, obviously. And, what's the saying? If there's smoke, there's fire. So there's two people coming out with kind of the same story. And Sid Bartlett, Bo's wife, I saw her tweet. I hope this helps others come forward. I don't know if that's Penn State wrestling related or if that's just in general, if you're a victim, speak out kind of thing. But, it does make you wonder, is there more to the story? I don't know. It's just, it's very sad, very strange, and, kind of unexpected, but yeah, I don't know what else to say, really. You guys kind of nailed it.
Yeah.
I think
Like yeah. Go ahead.
I think if you move past the sexual assault allegations and the racism allegations and look at some of the other statements he made about like religion being a big part of it and energy healing and things like that, a lot of that's going to be open to interpretation and your personal experience, just because that's the way religion works, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody has kind of their own interpretation and feeling about it. So I mean, that maybe some of that is just based on his personal experience, but they do have a history with an energy healer who's involved in the program. He's been on podcasts with Bo Nickel and talked about the program. So there's an affiliation there. What role that plays, I don't know. How much impact he had on the program, maybe none. I have no idea. But to dismiss it outright because it seems weird, again, like it's something that legitimately happened. Maybe his interpretation is different, but like these things line up. Like the accusations and the statements he's making are lining up with things that happened within that program. They should be taken seriously and at least looked at and to see, what really happened.
Yeah.
And that's where I fall too. It's, he comes out and says all this, and, I see a lot of people commenting, well, why didn't you come out at the time? And, I think
he was a fucking victim of sexual abuse. That's a difficult thing to do.
It's very difficult.
Well, and I think Bo Bartlett was pretty adamant about, hey, I went to so-and-so. I said this to the coaching staff. I said this to whoever, and nothing ever happened. So Kurt probably realized that, like, nothing's going to happen. What's the point if I speak up? People aren't going to believe me, whatever. And, that goes across the board to a lot of victims too, so that's just the other aspect of it. And, whether you believe the crystal healing, the other stuff that, again, as the video goes on, it gets a little, I don't want to say wacky, but a little more out there as, it's easier to write off, I should say. But is there a truth to it? I mean, I don't know, but doesn't mean you throw out the baby with the bathwater. There might be some truth in what he was saying, and you just kept rambling on, and I don't know, but it's a very opening video for sure.
Yeah. Robbie, I think you were spot on with the religion part of it is certainly his interpretation of what went on, right? But there's not an interpretation to being sexually assaulted or being called racial slurs. So, take the religion part of it with a grain of salt, because again, anyone's religion can be looked at through whatever lens and have whatever perspective based on your own personal views and experiences. But the experience of racism, sexual assault, or anything else like that, it's not really open to interpretation a lot of those times. So,
and the boys will be boys. It's the locker. What you do in the locker room will never cease to fucking amaze me. I've been in a lot of locker rooms. Not something I've experienced or would be okay with.
I'll tell you right now, if I'll be fully transparent. I've been, and I think I said this before, I've been called racial slurs during my athletic career. It started a fight every time. Like it's a one strike business with me. It doesn't fly. So, and it's just not acceptable. It's not locker room talk to say or do any of those things. And, you know, I've been around people that tried it and they only tried it once. Let's put it that way. So, you know, that type of stuff is just unacceptable no matter what, no matter where, no matter who. And let me just tell you this way, there are people in wrestling that I have had to check because of it. And you only get one check and that is it. So it's not cool to do. It's just not. So I'm going to leave it there, honestly, because I hate ending the show on negative notes, but it happened and we'll certainly see if anything progresses. I know there's a lot that has been talked about on social media and mostly surrounding, you know, Penn State in the last couple of days. I know we didn't get to the Aaron Brooks of it all, of him being suspended for 2 years and what that entails. We'll certainly talk about that at a later time because that's not going away.
At least for 2 years.
At least for 2 years, right? So, but no, I again hate to end the show on a negative note. So with that, I'm going to say that we are at the end of the season. We have finished off our dual meet season. It's time for conferences. Next week, we'll dig into our different conferences. We'll do some previews. Maybe we'll get into some interviews since we have a little bit of a hiatus between now and when conferences actually start. And we'll also take some questions too. So if there are things that you guys have questions about, shoot them our way. Happy to fill the show with some fan questions and stuff like that. I think we are going to pick a conference to do a shoe giveaway for. That seems the best avenue because of where we're at. So be on the lookout for the shoe giveaway as we approach the conference tournament. But as always, we appreciate you guys watching and listening to Quad Pod, sponsored by Poseidon Strength and Adidas Wrestling. Make sure that you are using those discount codes, as well as like, share, subscribe, comment, all those fun things. And we will see you next week. Peace.